Honolulu Stadium was a multi-purpose stadium located in the Moʻiliʻili district of Honolulu, Hawaii, at the corner of King and Isenberg Streets. Opened in 1926, it was a primary sports venue in Hawaii, preceding Aloha Stadium. During its final years, the stadium could hold about 25,000 fans. It was demolished in 1976. A public park, Old Stadium Park, now occupies a location. A plaque at the corner of King and Isenberg commemorates the stadium. Some of the property wall that stood behind the stands on the west end still remains. The stadium was bounded by King Street, north, third base, Isenberg Street, east, left field, Citron Street and Date Street, south, right field, and Makahiki Way, west, first base. It was catty-cornered to and replaced Moʻiliʻili Field as the venue of choice for the University of Hawaii at Manoa's athletic teams. Moʻiliʻili Field stood on the northeast corner of King and Isenberg and was bounded by South Beretania Street to the north and east. It still exists in the form of Moʻiliʻili Neighborhood Park, which has two ball fields within it. In the baseball configuration, home plate was in the northwest corner. The third base line ran along King, and left field seating was bounded on the east by Isenberg. Field dimensions mentioned in local newspapers varied somewhat, but the consensus appears to be left field 325 feet, right field 305 feet, and center field 430 feet. The football field ran parallel to the third baseline, but away from the infield. The west end zone was near the first baseline, and the gridiron ran east-southeast through right field and center field. The sideline seating for football was in right field and along the third base line. On November 21, 1926, the packed house of 15,000 watches the action from the Eva end zone as Kamehameha and St. Louis College battle for the ILH crown. It is the first high school game and second football contest at the two-week-old stadium. The Warriors win 14-13 in the final moments on a drop kick point after touchdown. The stadium was owned throughout most of its history by Honolulu Stadium Ltd., a private entity that was incorporated for $150,000 in 1926. As of 1943, the stadium was leased to the University of Hawaii. By the 1960s, Honolulu Stadium had long since reached the end of its useful life. It was made mostly of wood and was frequently attacked by termites, resulting in being nicknamed the Termite Palace. In January 1975, the state of Hawaii purchased the stadium for $8.5 million. At that time, the university held a majority of the shares of Honolulu Stadium Limited. The stadium was the longtime home of the University of Hawaii's college football team, then known as the Hawaii Rainbows, from 1926 to 1974, and the minor league baseball Hawaii Islanders of the Pacific Coast League, PCL, from 1961 to 1975. In its final years, the stadium was also known home to the Hawaiians of the World Football League. in 1974 and 1975. I have very fond memories of Honolulu Stadium. I was only 11 years old in 1964 when I first went to the high school football games there. I quickly learned that I could get in free if I sold lineups before each game. That was probably my first job ever. I made about 12 cents on the dollar and got in for free. I made enough money to buy myself food once I got inside. Under new head coach Cal Chai, Kamehameha ended Roosevelt's mid-50s dominance in the ILH, taking the championship in 1958. The Warriors went on to enjoy 8 more championship seasons under the defense-minded Chai, the last one in 1979. Kamehameha's 62 winners include Pat Spencer, Sam Harris, Rockne Freitas, and Mike DeMello. Kalani final score bears graphic testimony to the private school's frequent athletic domination over their public school opponents. 1964 football season was when Punahou star quarterback Charlie Whittemire led the Buff and Blue to an ILH championship. He was such an awesome player to watch. I watched him in the game against McKinley High School. I was truly amazed at his athletic ability. The following year, 1965, I had a friend, Mike Malloy, who played halfback for the Farrington Governors. That was the year Farrington won the ILH championship under head coach Tom Kiyosaki. The Farrington staff all wore suits to that championship game. Mike and I used to go to the other games to check out the cheerleaders from various other schools. I think St. Louis won the ILH championship in 1966 and 1967. Those were the Jim Nicholson years at St. Louis. That is when I entered Kamehameha schools and began cheering for the Warriors. Iolani, led by Elroy Chong, took the ILH title in 1968 against the McKinley Tigers, who were led by quarterback Ron Altele. One half of the 1968 Turkey Day doubleheader is a rain-soaked romp between Iolani and McKinley. Iolani wins the Mud Bowl 7-0. Kamehameha under quarterback Milton Hogue took the ILH championship during my junior year in 1969. After their first game loss to Kamiki, the Warriors went undefeated for the rest of the season. Kamehameha defeated St. Louis 13-6 in the championship Turkey Day game. The following year, the public schools pulled out of the ILH and joined the OIA. That killed a lot of the fierce rivalries that existed at that time. Thereafter, the remaining private schools had to play each other 3 times during the season. As a senior, it was Arnold Morgado's last chance to bring home a championship for Punahou. St. Louis and Punahou were co-champions in 1970. After that, I remember watching Mosi Totupu lead Punahou to an ILH championship. I joined the U.S. Army in 1973 and didn't follow high school football thereafter. In 1962, Kamehameha Pep Squad. Song leaders in the front row are left to right: Pat Vasconcelos, Valerie Loda, Karen Joy, Alani Brissett, and Diane Salvadors. Cheerleaders at back are left to right: Lester Cabral, Melvin Silva, Philip Arnold, Pep Chairman Kevin Mahoy, Merlin Kuba, and Henry Owl. 1945 St. Louis song leaders include front left to right Carol Prigel, Sammy Amoy, and Clora Holt. Back left to right Marjorie Carvalho, Mamu Cummings, and Rosemary DuPont. Lani cheerleader Renee Kashiwabara strikes a pose in 1967. When I returned home in 1976, the new Aloha Stadium had already been built. I was thrilled to learn that Kamehameha was Prep Bowl champions for 3 years in a row. My interest in high school football was renewed thereafter. 3 years, there were many other events besides high school football that were held at Honolulu Stadium. I remember going there to watch the Hawaiʻi Islanders. I remember Al Michaels doing the play-by-play on radio. My dad loved baseball and he would accompany me there. I know that other events such as hot car racing, boxing, polo, the Elvis concert in 1957 were also held at the old Honolulu Stadium. The stadium was the venue for several bowl games. The Poi Bowl, 1936 to 1939, 1945, the Pineapple Bowl, 1940, 1941, 1947 to 1952, and Hula Bowl, 1960 to 1975. It also hosted high school football, world championship boxing matches, and was used for stock car racing. Track was also run at the stadium. It was the site of Hawaii's first night track meet in 1949. Famous athletes who competed in Honolulu Stadium include Lou Gehrig and Babe Ruth in 1934, Joe DiMaggio, who hit a home run out of the park while playing for a military team in 1944, and Jesse Owens, who outran a horse in an 80-yard dash at the stadium in 1946. Irving Berlin performed at the stadium in 1945. Elvis Presley performed in 1957, and Billy Graham inspired a capacity crowd a year later. The 1971 Hawaii Rainbows football team hosted the undefeated and top-ranked Nebraska Cornhuskers at the stadium in early December. The defending national champions were fresh off their game of the century win on Thanksgiving at number 2 Oklahoma and defeated the Rainbows 45-3. Nebraska went on to defeat Alabama in the 1972 Orange Bowl on New Year's Day for a 13-0 season. In the stadium's final event, the Islanders won their first PCL championship over the Salt Lake Gulls in 6 games, concluding on September 8, 1975. The stadium was replaced by Aloha Stadium in Aloha, which opened the following week.